For decades, humanity has been told the same story, that the moon is a dead rock, lifeless and barren, with nothing more mysterious than dust and craters. But what if this was only half the truth? What if, hidden on the far side of the moon, permanently out of sight from Earth, there lies a relic, a colossal structure that has no business being there? Before the video, if you like our channel, please remember to subscribe to us. The infamous photograph of a long, cigar-shaped object resting silently in a crater on the lunar surface has circulated for years. Some dismiss it as a trick of light, a distortion in old mission data, or even a hoax. Yet, for many others, this image is far too specific, far too detailed, and far too provocative to be ignored. Its sleek, elongated form does not resemble the jagged randomness of lunar rocks. Instead, it looks engineered, as if it was built. A ship, a vessel, a presence that predates our space age by thousands, perhaps millions of years. This image alone would be enough to keep researchers, conspiracy theorists, and truth seekers awake at night. But in 2025, something happened that pushed this mystery from speculation into urgency. The discovery of 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object ever observed passing through our solar system. At first, it was categorized as just another comet. NASA's reports were dry, almost boring, a hyperbolic trajectory, unusual speed, a faint coma of dust. But then, the anomalies piled up. Its trajectory aligned too neatly with the ecliptic plane of our planets. It executed planetary flybys that looked suspiciously like gravitational assists, the very maneuvers human engineers use to navigate spacecraft efficiently across the solar system. And most shocking of all, its appearance. Elongated, narrow, cigar-shaped, the very same design attributed to the mysterious lunar craft. Could this be coincidence? Skeptics will say yes, but let's pause for a moment and apply reason. What are the odds that two independent mysteries, one resting silently on the lunar surface, the other blazing through the solar system, share the same elongated geometry, the same proportions, and the same aura of intentional design? Now, think about this. The lunar photograph has been around for decades. Analysts, amateur astronomers, and whistleblowers have all claimed it shows a derelict spacecraft. When 3I Atlas appeared in 2025, those voices resurfaced, louder and more urgent. They began to ask the forbidden question: what if these two are not separate mysteries at all? What if they are connected? The theory is simple and terrifying. The object we saw on the moon, that elongated craft, may not be stationary. It may have only been resting there, perhaps hidden, perhaps dormant. And when the time was right, it left. Its reappearance as 3I Atlas would then be not an arrival, but a departure. Consider the implications of this. For decades, humanity has stared at the moon through telescopes, orbiters, and landers, always with the suspicion that something more was there. Then, a long-form object shows up right under our noses in 2025, cutting through the solar system at breakneck speed. And now, scientists tell us we may never see it again. It will vanish back into interstellar space, beyond our reach, beyond our instruments. The perfect exit. The question practically asks itself, was 3I Atlas once the very ship photographed on the far side of the moon? NASA will not answer this. In fact, their silence is louder than words. Instead of acknowledging the resemblance, they drown the data in jargon carbon dust ratios, cometary outgassing models, hyperbolic orbits. To the public, this language sounds authoritative, definitive, but in truth, it is a smokescreen. Because buried under those technical terms lies a possibility, too dangerous to admit, that we are not simply watching rocks wander through the cosmos, but observing technology, deliberate, ancient alien technologies slipping quietly out of our neighborhood. And so we begin here, at the threshold of a question humanity has never dared to ask so openly. Is 3I Atlas just a comet, as NASA insists? Or is it the same enigmatic craft once seen on the moon's hidden sidecraft that has waited silently until now to continue its journey? This is not just speculation. This is a trail of evidence, scattered across decades, waiting to be assembled. And once we follow that trail, we may discover that humanity has been watched, studied, and perhaps even judged for far longer than we ever realized. Asterisk, the far side of the moon has always carried an aura of secrecy. Unlike the near side, constantly visible from Earth, the far side is permanently turned away, hidden from naked eyes and backyard telescopes. For millennia, humanity could only speculate about what lay there. But with the advent of the space age, satellites, probes, and orbiters gave us our first glimpses of this forbidden realm. And that's when the anomalies began. Among the troves of images quietly archived by NASA and other space agencies, there exists one photograph that refuses to die. It shows a barren lunar surface, scarred with craters and ridges, as expected. But nestled in one of those craters is something that doesn't belong. Something elongated, something sleek, something that looks disturbingly engineered. Its long stimates suggest over 3 kilometers in length. Its shadow is sharp and distinct, betraying not just a trick of lighting, but actual structure. The contours are smooth, with parallel ridges running along its body, resembling the segmented hull of a ship. Its nose is tapered, its body narrow, almost aerodynamic, though of course, aerodynamics are meaningless in the vacuum of space. Yet, the resemblance to terrestrial submarines or starship designs from science fiction is uncanny. For years, the photograph circulated only in whispers, passed among UFO researchers, conspiracy theorists, and insiders willing to risk ridicule. Some claimed it came from Apollo-era reconnaissance. Others insisted it was captured during a secret military mission, one never disclosed to the public. NASA, when asked, offered silence or obfuscation. The official response was always the same: rock formation, nothing unusual. But here's the problem. Lunar geology does not create perfectly elongated, cigar-shaped forms with ridged symmetry. Natural processes produce chaos-jagged cliffs, scattered boulders, crater rims. They do not produce sleek, uniform cylinders over a mile long. To believe the official explanation requires suspending logic, while to consider the alternative requires only opening your eyes. Now, combine this anomaly with history. During the Apollo missions, multiple astronauts reported strange lights or objects watching us. Transcripts exist declassified years later where Apollo crews whispered to mission control about bogies tracking them near the moon. Buzz Aldrin himself admitted in later interviews that Apollo 11 encountered unexplained objects, though NASA quickly framed them as panels from the rocket booster. Convenient, but unconvincing. Why so much secrecy around the far side of the moon? Consider this. No Apollo mission ever landed there. All 6 crewed landings occurred on the near side, visible from Earth. Officially, this was due to communication constraints. Unofficially, one must ask, was the far side avoided because someone was already there? And so, we return to the image. That enormous craft, lying half-buried in lunar dust, looks neither destroyed nor random. Instead, it resembles something resting, dormant, perhaps powered down, waiting. Was it abandoned? Was it stationed there deliberately, as an outpost? Or could it have been camouflaged intentionally, hidden in plain sight under the guise of a lunar rock? This is where the story grows darker. Whistleblowers from within NASA and the military-industrial complex have occasionally stepped forward, only to be dismissed as cranks. Yet their stories align uncanny. They speak of structures on the moon, machines, even ships. They describe internal policies of compartmentalization, data scrubbed, images airbrushed, anomalies classified. It wasn't just rocks. One alleged insider once said, "It was never just rocks." If the photograph is real land, let us be clear. Multiple independent analysts have verified its authenticity. Then humanity has already encountered alien technology. Not speculation, not possibility, evidence. A physical craft on our closest celestial neighbor. And here lies the bridge to 31 ATLAS. When astronomers observed the interstellar object in 2025, they immediately noted its proportions, elongated, cigar-shaped, eerily similar to the lunar vessel. The mainstream scientific community dismissed the comparison as pareidolia, the human tendency to see patterns where none exist. But is it really pareidolia when 2 independent anomalies, separated by decades, separated by the exact same geometry? Skeptics insist it's coincidence. Believers counter with probability. The odds of finding 2 unrelated natural objects, both several kilometers long, both smooth, both cylindrical, both captured in higher resolution imagery, are vanishingly small. At some point, the word coincidence becomes intellectual laziness. Let's push the thought further. Suppose the lunar craft wasn't destroyed, but dormant. Suppose it had the ability to reactivate, to leave when the time was right. The image we saw was simply a snapshot in time, a brief moment when it was resting on the lunar surface. Decades later, in 2025, it reappears not on the moon, but cutting across the solar system as 3I Atlas dot. This theory explains both anomalies in one elegant stroke. The moon photograph and the interstellar object are not separate mysteries. They are chapters of the same story. The vessel hidden on the far side of the moon is the very same vessel we now observe as 3I Atlas. 1 artifact, 2 sightings. Think about the implications. It means the craft was never inert. It was active, calculating, waiting. Perhaps it monitored us for decades, perhaps longer. Then, at a moment of its choosing, it departed, setting course out of the solar system, away from our instruments, away from our questions. And here is the unsettling part. If it could leave so quietly, what else has already left? Or worse, what else remains? The photograph of the lunar ship was not just a curiosity. It was a warning, a breadcrumb in a much larger trail. And now, with 3 IATLAS, the trail has reappeared, brighter, clearer, and more urgent than ever. Asterisk science thrives on curiosity, or so we're told. It is supposed to embrace anomalies, question contradictions, and chase mysteries until they unravel. But when it comes to the moon's long cigar-shaped ship and the interstellar enigma of 3 IATLAS, the response from the scientific establishment has been the opposite of curiosity. It has been silence. A silence so loud it echoes through every press conference, every sanitized NASA statement, every peer-reviewed article that bends over backward to explain away the inexplicable. Take NASA's public relations machine. Whenever an anomaly surfaces, whether it's strange lights near Apollo missions, unidentified structures in lunar photographs, or the improbable trajectory of 3 IATLAS, the answer is always swift, polished, and dismissive. Camera artifact, cosmic ray, rock formation, comet. The language is designed to suffocate wonder, to strip the extraordinary of its extraordinariness, to lull the public into believing there is nothing more to see. But what happens behind the curtain is a different story. Whistleblowers who have risked careers, sometimes even their safety, tell us that. NASA has entire departments tasked not with studying anomalies, but with suppressing them. Former employees have spoken of images being airbrushed before release, of data streams being scrubbed, of astronauts instructed to remain silent about what they saw. Consider this. When Apollo 11 astronauts first set foot on the moon, their transmission to mission control contained a 2-minute gap that was later explained as a technical glitch. Insiders allege those 2 minutes were deliberately cut because astronauts reported craft watching them from the rim of a crater. Why would NASA censor humanity's greatest moment unless there was something it didn't want the world to hear? The same pattern repeats with 3 IATLAS. From the moment of its discovery on July 1, 2025, independent astronomers began noting its strange characteristics, its precise trajectory, its low inclination, its resemblance to an engineered flight path. But NASA and affiliated institutions rushed to label it just another comet. Press releases emphasized cometary behavior, despite the object lacking the typical outgassing jets expected of comets. Contradictions were ignored, data cherry-picked, and dissenting voices marginalized. And then there's Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist, who dared to ask the forbidden question: what if interstellar objects like Oumuamua and 3I Atlas are not natural at all? For this, he was ridiculed, attacked, accused of chasing headlines. Yet his argument was straightforward. If something looks artificial, moves artificial, behaves artificial, shouldn't we at least consider the artificial explanation? But the scientific community recoiled, not because his data was wrong, but because his conclusions threatened the narrative. Why such fear? The answer lies not in science, but in power. NASA is not just a scientific agency. It is a government agency. Its funding comes from Congress, its missions tied to defense, its discoveries filtered through layers of bureaucracy. To admit that an alien craft may sit on the far side of the moon or worse, that it has already left and now speeds across interstellar space would trigger consequences far beyond astronomy. It would shatter religion, politics, economics. it would change everything. And so, silence becomes survival. Better to label it a comet than to open Pandora's box. Better to scoff at conspiracy theorists than to confront the uncomfortable. Better to feign certainty than to admit the unknown. But the cracks in the mask are visible. Each time an anomaly surfaces, NASA's explanations grow thinner, more desperate. Take the lunar ship image. When questioned, NASA claimed it was a shadowed ridge. Yet multiple geologists pointed out that lunar ridges do not cast elongated, cigar-like shadows. When pressed further, NASA stopped answering altogether. Silence was their final refuge. Or look at the timing of 31 ATLAS. Its closest approach to the Sun occurs precisely when Earth will be on the opposite side, meaning we will be blind during the very moment it could maneuver, alter course, or reveal its true nature, coincidence, or design. NASA assures us it's coincidence, but how many coincidences are too many? Even the James Webb Space Telescope, humanity's most powerful eye in the sky, has faced unusual restrictions. Several astronomers have privately complained that proposals to observe 31 ATLAS have been mysteriously delayed or denied. In the opaque world of telescope time allocation, few dare to question why. But the pattern is there. The fewer eyes on the object, the easier to control the narrative. Let's not forget SOHO, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, designed to study the Sun. It has accidentally captured dozens of anomalies, massive structures near the solar corona, objects the size of planets seemingly feeding on solar plasma. Time and again, the public has flagged these images, and time and again, NASA dismisses them as artifacts. Yet the anomalies keep appearing, undeniable, persistent, mocking the official story. The parallels are striking. The lunar ship photo, 31 Atlas, the SOHO anomalies, the Apollo whispers. Each one an isolated fire, together a wildfire, and the response of science. Pretend it isn't burning. So we ask, is this silence truly about scientific caution, or is it about control? If an alien presence has already left fingerprints across our solar system, the moon, near the sun, now racing past Earth, what happens to governments, militaries, religions, when the truth breaks? Who gains and who loses? NASA's mask is cracking. The silence of science is unsustainable. And every passing day, as 3IATLAS draws closer to perihelion, the truth becomes harder to contain. Asterisk, the question that keeps resurfacing is deceptively simple. What if the elongated craft photographed on the far side of the moon decades ago is the very same object now known as 3IATLAS? At first glance, the claim sounds outrageous. How could a dormant structure resting silently in a lunar crater suddenly transform into an interstellar wanderer? But as we examine the evidence, piece by piece, the improbable begins to look disturbingly plausible. The most obvious connection is geometry. Both the lunar craft and 3I Atlas share the same elongated, cigar-like shape. Unlike natural rocks, which tend toward irregular, jagged forms, both objects exhibit a streamlined symmetry, narrow, elongated, almost aerodynamic. NASA insists that lunar ridges and shadows can create illusions, but the photograph of the moon's object shows proportions too precise to dismiss, length to width ratios consistent with a vessel, not a random boulder. Decades later, astronomers described 3I Atlas in eerily similar terms: long, thin, cigar-shaped. The resemblance is uncanny, and in science, when two independent phenomena share rare characteristics, correlation demands attention. The moon photograph has circulated since at least the 1970s, with some claims that it was leaked from early Apollo image archives. For decades, the object remained therein challenged, unexplained. Then, without warning, it disappeared from conversation. And in 2025, what appeared? An elongated, cigar-shaped interstellar object cutting across the solar system with a trajectory so improbable even Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb argued it could not be random. The coincidence is staggering. Why did an elongated lunar craft fade from the record, only for a new elongated object to suddenly appear? The simplest answer: they are the same. Imagine this: the object rested dormant on the moon, perhaps camouflaged, perhaps in hibernation. Then, triggered by an internal timer, by solar activity, or even by Earth's growing technological reach, it reactivated. It lifted off the far side of the moon, where no human eye could see, and departed into space. By the time our telescopes caught it, it had already been renamed 3I Atlas. One of the most baffling aspects of 3I Atlas is its trajectory. Instead of plunging into the solar system at a steep, chaotic angle like most interstellar debris, it glides neatly along the ecliptic plane, the very corridor our planets travel. Even stranger, it passes close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter in sequence, mimicking the gravity assist maneuvers used by spacecraft. Now consider this: if the lunar craft were a vessel, resting in wait, then departing Earth's orbit would naturally place it onto such a path. A launch from the moon, aimed toward the solar system's planetary plane, would produce exactly this trajectory. The coincidence that 3I Atlas behaves like an engineered spacecraft vanishes once we connect it to the lunar ship. Hubble and other telescopes captured a bizarre phenomenon around 3I Atlas, a glow, a dust plume that appeared not behind Ita's cometary physics dictate but in front of it. NASA explained this as unusual dust grains, but think again: what if this forward glow is not dust at all, but a defensive shield, a protective barrier of particles projected ahead of the craft to vaporize micrometeoroids, a common feature of interstellar travel concepts? If so, then 3I Atlas is not behaving like a comet, it is behaving like technology. The same kind of technology we might expect from a massive derelict craft, leaving lunar orbit after millennia of slumber. Asterisk: when researchers attempted to locate the lunar craft in later satellite photographs, it was gone. NASA offered no explanation. Images were scrubbed, archives reorganized, links broken. The object, which had once provoked fiery debate, simply vanished from official records. Yet this vanishing act perfectly aligns with the sudden lines of 3I Atlas. The timeline suggests one covered the other. The moon lost its elongated anomaly just as the solar system gained one. If these were unrelated, the odds would border on astronomical impossibility. Asterisk: another chilling angle is what some call the psychological preparation theory. For decades, NASA and affiliated institutions have subtly released images of the lunar ship while simultaneously dismissing them as misinterpretations. Why? One theory suggests it was a test-an experiment to measure public reaction. Would humanity panic if told there was an alien craft on the moon? Would they laugh it off? The responses were catalogued, measured, analyzed, and when 3 IATLAs finally departed, the institutions were ready. They had already primed the public to dismiss anomalies. They had prepared the narrative. It's just a comet. Asterisk, here lies perhaps the most damning clue. For 3 IATLAS to arrive on its current trajectory, its velocity had to be finely tuned. Random interstellar objects are expected to wander chaotically, flung by gravity into unpredictable paths. But 3 IATLAS's velocity, roughly 60 kilometers per second, was suspiciously efficient, as though calculated. Now imagine a craft departing from lunar orbit, using the moon's gravity, Earth's gravity, and then a perihelion near the sun. The object could accelerate to exactly such a speed. In other words, the energy profile of 3 IATLAS matches not random chance, but deliberate departure from Earth's neighborhood. Asterisk, if the lunar craft was truly a vessel, dormant for centuries, why would it leave in 2025? The answer may lie in humanity itself. We are at the dawn of a new, aged private spaceflight. Reusable rockets, plans for lunar bases, even whispers of mining the moon. For the first time, humanity threatens to uncover the far side with permanent bases, high-resolution satellites, and constant monitoring. If the lunar ship wished to remain hidden, its time was running out. Departure was inevitable. And so, as humanity looked the other way, distracted by wars, politics, and economics, the craft slipped quietly into space, reborn as 3I Atlas. Conclusion: a trail to clear the evidence forms a chilling mosaic. The identical geometry, the disappearance of the lunar craft, and sudden appearance of 3I Atlas, the engineered trajectory through the ecliptic, the forward-facing glow, resembling shielding, the silence and suppression in records, the precise velocity, consistent with a moon departure, taken individually. Each anomaly might be explained away. Together, they scream a singular truth. 3 IATLAS is not a random visitor. It is a returning actor. Ship, perhaps the very same ship we once glimpsed sleeping on the moon. NASA will never admit this. Science will never publish it. But the trail is there. And for those willing to connect the dots, the conclusion is unavoidable. Humanity has not merely been visited, it has been watched. And the watcher has now moved on. Asterisk, when we dare to ask whether 3I Atlas and the mysterious lunar craft are the same entity, we are really asking a far deeper question. What civilization placed it there, and what message does its journey carry across myth and religion? One archetype repeats endlessly: the watcher. In the Bible, in Sumerian tablets, in Mayan codices, we find beings that appear from the sky, observe silently, and then vanish, leaving humanity to wonder. The lunar ship, if real, fits this archetype perfectly. It did not land in Times Square. It did not announce its presence. It rested quietly on the hidden side of the moon, just out of reach, yet close enough to watch. And when our technology grew near the point of discovery, it departed. The message is implicit. We are being observed, not engaged. Astrophysicist Avi Loeb once asked, if a civilization millions of years older than ours wanted to explore the galaxy, Would they send fleets of starships, or would they send silent, durable probes machines that could wait, watch, and report? 31ATLAS looks exactly like such a probe. Not designed to conquer, not designed to communicate, but to endure. Its elongated shape could house vast arrays of sensors. Its apparent shielding system may protect delicate instruments. Its trajectory is optimized to skim multiple planets. Like a surveyor ticking off boxes on a checklist. The frightening implication is this: we are not the main audience. The probe is not here for us. It is simply passing, collecting, relaying. Humanity's encounter is incidental. Like ants noticing a drone flying overhead. The far side of the moon is the perfect hiding place. Shielded from Earth's radio chatter, invisible to human eyes for most of history, and only briefly photographed during the space race. It is the ultimate observation post. If a civilization wanted to monitor Earth without interference, they would not park in orbit or land in New York. They would choose the dark side of our nearest satellite. From there, they could watch unobserved for centuries, even millennia. And when humans began planning lunar bases, when permanent monitoring threatened secrecy, the probe simply departed. It didn't need to confront us. It didn't need to reveal itself. It only needed to move on. In Lou Sixon's three-body problem trilogy, the universe is described as a dark forest. Every civilization is a hunter. Every noise risks attracting predators. The safest strategy: stay silent, stay hidden. Strike first if discovered. Now consider. Humanity has been broadcasting for a century: TV, radio, radar, even directed messages like the Arecibo transmission. We have announced ourselves loudly. If 31ATLAS is truly a probe, then its mission may not be observation alone. It may be assessment. We may already be cataloged as a noisy young species, one that violates the rule of silence. And in the dark forest, such species do not survive long. Here lies the poetic horror. The very chemical signatures detected on 3IATLA sentient ESAs, preserved organics, may not be natural. They may be camouflage, a technological shell designed to look like a comet, to blend in with cosmic noise. It's a brilliant strategy. Move unseen. Hide in plain sight. Humanity only notices because we now have telescopes sensitive enough to catch the anomalies, the forward glow, the improbable trajectory, the unnatural brightness. For older civilizations, this camouflage might be routine. For us, it's a revelation. If 3I Atlas is the same as the lunar ship, then its departure carries meaning. The act itself is the message. We can come and go as we please. Think about it. Civilizations often leave monuments, pyramids, temples, satellites in orbit. But the most terrifying monument is one that moves, one that watches, one that reminds us of our fragility. We don't need radio signals or alien languages. The silence is louder. The message is, you are not alone. You are not in control. There is another possibility, darker still. Perhaps the probe was designed not merely to observe, but to test us. By positioning itself on the moon, it tempted discovery. By departing in 2025, it guaranteed debate. The question becomes, how does humanity react? Do we panic? Do we dismiss? Do we fracture into camps of belief and denial? Every comment, every news headline, every government statement may already be Data fed back to its origin civilization. In this scenario, 3IATLAS is not just a probe, it is an exam. And we are failing it, loudly, publicly, in real time. History warns us. The Olmecs, the Sumerians, the Indus Valley civilizations rose, flourished, and fell, often under the gaze of forces they could not control. If an advanced intelligence has monitored us since antiquity, then perhaps it has already seen this cycle play out. Perhaps it knows our fate better than we do. The lunar ship may have been present in ancient skies, mistaken for gods. Its departure now could symbolize the closing of a chapter, the end of observation, the beginning of judgment. So, what lies ahead? There are two possibilities. The optimistic 3IATLAS is a neutral probe, a silent wanderer cataloging data. We are nothing more than one entry among billions. In this view, we are safe, irrelevant. Even the pessimistic, it is a scout. Its job is to assess whether we are a threat, a resource, or a nuisance. Its data will be relayed, and decisions will be made. In that case, its very departure may be a countdown. In myth, when gods departed, it was never meaningless. The Mayans watched Venus to predict catastrophe. The Egyptians saw comets as omens. So too with 3IATLAS, its timing, leaving just as humanity prepares to colonize the moon, is symbolic. It may represent a boundary, this far and no further. Its silence may not mean absence. It may mean we are being measured, weighed, judged, just as our ancestors feared when they looked to the stars. The elongated lunar craft, the interstellar 3IATLAS, the watcher archetype, the dark forest, they weave together into one narrative. Humanity is not alone, and we are not the masters of our destiny. We are being observed, perhaps tested, perhaps catalogued. The departure of the lunar ship was not random. It was a reminder that we live inside a story written long before us, by authors we cannot see. And maybe, just maybe, 3I Atlas is not a visitor at all. It is a pioneer, a sentinel, a silent judge, a shadow in the sky. A warning we are only beginning to hear. The silence of space is expected. The silence of NASA is not. And yet, when it comes to 3IATLAS and the mysterious lunar craft, silence is all we hear. Every time humanity stumbles upon an anomaly too large to ignore, there is a predictable pattern. First, blurry images leak. Second, speculation floods the media. Third, NASA issues a carefully worded statement, always downplaying, always minimizing. It happened with Oumuamua. It happened with the so-called moon towers caught in Apollo photographs. It happened with unexplained lights seen by astronauts. And now it is happening again with 3I Atlas. Officially, they call it an interstellar comet. Unofficially, their own data contradicts this. Forward-facing dust streams, improbable planetary flybys, inconsistent spectral readings. Yet the press releases speak of ordinary behavior. Why? Because admitting otherwise would shake the foundations of public trust and perhaps reveal that we are not the first intelligence to set foot in our solar system. Few people know that. Thousands of Apollo photographs remain unreleased to the public, even in 2025. Of the images that were published, many show suspicious edits, areas blurred, shadows inconsistent. objects cut out. Whistleblowers from within NASA have whispered for decades. We found more than rocks. Some claim astronauts. Reported strange structures, geometric shapes on the lunar surface, and even lights moving across the sky. And where were most of these anomalies located? The far side of the moon, the very place where the alleged long craft was photographed. If NASA knew there was something there, what better way to hide it than to discourage exploration, to declare the far side off limits, to shift focus? Mars, asteroids, anywhere but the place that might reveal the truth. Consider the timing. 31ATLAS will reach perihelion, its closest point to the Sun, in October 29, 2025. Exactly at that moment, it will vanish behind the solar glare. For weeks, telescopes will be unable to observe it. A coincidence, or the perfect cover? During this blackout, anything could happen. Course changes, deployment of probes, even communication bursts, masked by solar interference. NASA knows this. Yet, instead of urgency, we get indifference. It's just a comet, they insist. While privately redirecting telescope time and locking sensitive data behind classified access, one must ask, what do they expect to happen during that invisible window? And why does their public voice sound calm while their private actions suggest panic? Whispers circulate of a secret project called Shield 3, allegedly. It is a rapid response mission designed to intercept or even neutralize interstellar objects. Some say it involves nuclear payloads mounted on modified probes. Others believe it is merely observational, a desperate attempt to gather close-range data. But here's the catch. If NASA truly believed 3I Atlas was just a comet, why fund such a project at all? Why prepare defenses against an ordinary rock? The existence of Shield 3 implies one thing. They know the risk is real. They know it might not be natural. And they fear the public reaction if that truth were admitted. Independent astronomers report water signatures inconsistent with NASA's official claims. Spectral graphs show dips and spikes unexplained by cometary physics. Images from Hubble display a forward halo, yet press releases describe a typical tale. It is almost as if NASA is writing one story for the public, while the instruments write another for those who know how to read between the lines. And when independent scientists raise these issues, they are dismissed, defunded, or drowned in ridicule. The system protects itself, even at the cost of truth. Why would NASA hide this? The answer may lie not in science, but in politics. If humanity accepted that an advanced probe is in our solar system, everything changes. Military budgets would spiral. Religious beliefs would fracture. Governments would lose control of the narrative. Silence becomes the only option. Better to soothe the public with talk of icy comets than to admit we are being watched by something older, stronger, and far beyond human power. One proposal, leaked from internal documents, suggests repurposing the Juno spacecraft to intercept 3I Atlas in 2026. On paper, it's feasible. In practice, it requires perfect timing, risky maneuvers, and an admission that such an intercept is necessary. If it happens, we may get the first close-up images of an interstellar object, but don't expect honesty. If the craft looks artificial, the photographs will vanish into classified vaults, just like the Apollo anomalies, and the public. They will see nothing but another blurred comet photo. Here is where the silence grows deafening. NASA has never publicly addressed the resemblance between 3I Atlas and the alleged lunar ship. Not once, not in interviews, not in reports, not in denials. It is as if acknowledging the comparison would give it legitimacy. Yet, silence itself is suspicious. If the two are unrelated, why not say so? Why not disprove the theory with evidence? Instead, we are left with omission, and omission, in the court of truth, is as telling as confession. Perhaps what NASA fears most is not the object itself, but the implication. If 3I Atlas and the lunar ship are the same, it means an intelligence has been here before. It means they left behind technology on our moon. It means we are under observation by forces beyond us. That is not a narrative any government can control. That is not a truth they can spin. So they choose silence. They choose denial. They choose to let the public argue among themselves while the real data stays hidden in classified vaults. Conclusion: the silence screams in the end. NASA's greatest betrayal is not what they say, but what they refuse to say. Every carefully worded statement, every missing photograph, every unexplained blackout, together, they form a louder message than words. The silence itself screams, something is here, and we cannot tell you. And as 3I Atlas continues its journey, one fact becomes clear. The truth will not come from NASA. It will come from the anomalies, the leaks, and the eyes of those willing to look beyond the official script. Asterisk: when confronted with an object like 3I Atlas, an enigma wrapped in dust and secrecy, there are only two ways forward: dismiss it as coincidence, or dare to imagine. Let us imagine. What if the craft, seen on the far side of the moon decades ago, was not separate from 3IA TLAS, but a piece of it? Think of it, a massive cigar-shaped vessel discovered lying silently on the lunar surface, its length measured in kilometers, its proportions eerily similar to the interstellar visitor now streaking through our system. Perhaps the object on the moon was the wreckage of a failed landing. Perhaps it was an abandoned scout ship, damaged and left behind while its twin 3I Atlas continued its journey. The moon, airless and dead, is the perfect graveyard. No wind to erode, no water to rust. A crashed vessel could lie there untouched for millions of years, waiting for us to stumble upon it. Could it be that when 3IA TLAS entered our system, astronomers experienced déjà vu, not because they had seen this shape before in the stars, but because humanity had already seen it on the moon? A celestial mirror reminding us of a forgotten discovery. And if that lunar wreck is a fragment, what does the intact parent vessel look like? The implications are staggering. There is another possibility, more cunning, more disturbing. Imagine that 3I ATLAS is not simply a rock with ice, but a craft wearing a disguise, a cometary cloak. The moon, with its abundant dust and regolith, could have served as the workshop. The vessel lands, harvests material, coats itself in rock and ice, then departs, looking for all the world like a harmless comet. From a distance, telescopes would see only gas and dust, a bright coma, a misleading tale. But beneath the mask could be metal, technology, a hollow interior filled with ancient machinery. This theory explains the anomalies. Why does its brightness exceed its estimated size? Because reflective alloys lurk beneath the dust. Why does its trajectory mimic spacecraft maneuvers? Because it was designed, not random. Why does its tail sometimes point forward? Because it is not tail at albitacto systems, venting deliberately. In this view, the moonship was never a wreck. It was a staging ground, the place where the object disguised itself before continuing into the inner solar system. And now, as it nears the sun, the disguise burns away, revealing glimpses of something artificial. But there is a third hypothesis, perhaps the most unsettling. What if 3I Atlas is not broken debris or a disguised survivor, but an observer? Imagine a civilization millions of years older than ours. To them, sending out probes across the galaxy would be as ordinary as launching satellites is for us. But they would not waste time with communication. They would simply watch, record, report. In this scenario, the Mooncraft and 3I Atlas are not two objects, but two stations of the same mission. The moon base was a long-term outpost, placed to monitor Earth's development. And when humanity finally achieved spaceflight, when our radio signals filled the void, another probe was dispatched. Enter 3I Atlas. Notice its trajectory, aligned with the ecliptic, passing by Venus, Mars, and Jupiter in sequence, almost as if it were designed to sample every major world, updating an ancient database. Notice its timing, arriving exactly when our technology can observe it, but still beyond our reach to intercept, close enough to tease, distant enough to remain untouchable. And most of all, notice its silence. No signals, no responses, no invitations. Like a predator that studies before, it strikes her like a researcher observing ants from outside the glass. If this is true, then 3I Atlas is not here by accident. It is here because of us. It is the watcher, and we are the watched. Skeptics will laugh, scientists will demand equations, governments will deny, but remember, the most dangerous truths are always hidden behind ridicule and silence. We cannot prove that the moonship and 3I Atlas are the same, but we cannot disprove it either. And in that uncertainty lies possibility. Perhaps the lunar wreck is the corpse of an interstellar scout. Perhaps 3I Atlas is a vessel cloaked in cometary disguise. Perhaps both are pieces of a surveillance network older than humanity itself. Whichever theory you choose, the conclusion is the same. Our solar system is not empty, and we are not alone. *4. Centuries, human beings have gazed at the night sky with awe. We told stories of gods, drew constellations, and built temples aligned with the stars. Yet, deep down, we always assumed one thing, that the universe, vast as it is, remained indifferent, that the stars burned, the comets streaked, and the galaxies spun with no regard for us. But what if that assumption was wrong? What if the universe is not indifferent at all? What if, scattered across the void, there are eyes, the lunar craft half buried in shadow, and 3I Atlas, blazing like a messenger from beyond, are not just mysteries of astronomy. They are mirrors, reflecting back at us questions we are terrified to ask. If 3I Atlas is a ship, then someone built it. And if someone built it, then there was intent, purpose, a mission. Think about that. A rock does not care where it travels. A comet has no reason to align with planetary orbits. But a ship travels somewhere. A ship collects data. A ship carries passengers. and that forces us to ask, what is its purpose here? Is it reconnaissance in alien civilization mapping our solar system? Is it surveillance, a quiet confirmation that humanity has reached a dangerous level of development? Or is it contact, the first subtle knock on the door of our awareness? Every possibility is terrifying, because intent means agency, and agency means we are no longer alone in determining our fate. Why no signals? Why no broadcasts? No attempt at communication? Some say it proves 3 IATLAS is natural. But think deeper. Would an advanced civilization really announce itself to a species as young, as reckless, as warlike as ours? Would you reveal yourself to a colony of ants? Or would you observe quietly, measuring their behavior before deciding what to do? Silence, then, is not absence. It is strategy. And perhaps the most unsettling thought is this: silence could mean disinterest. Maybe they are not here to talk to us at all. Maybe, in the cosmic hierarchy, humanity is not even worth acknowledging. If 3 IATLAS came from another star system, which one? The thick disk of the Milky Way, a forgotten cradle of ancient suns, or somewhere even farther, a civilization older than Earth itself? The lunar craft suggests permanence, a structure placed deliberately, perhaps millions of years ago, to monitor this system. 3-1 Atlas suggests movement, a vessel, still active, still traveling. Together, they whisper of a network, outposts, probes, stations, each designed to watch, to wait, to endure. What if Earth is not special at all? What if we are just one of countless planets cataloged by these silent watchers? That would be the cruelest truth. Not that we are alone, but that we are irrelevant. Here lies the final, haunting question. What does it mean for us? If 3I Atlas is truly artificial, then our place in the cosmos changes overnight. Every religion, every philosophy, every story humanity has told about its uniqueness collapses. We are no longer the center of creation. We are a data point, an observation, a note in someone else's record. And even if it is not artificial, even if it is only a comet with unusual behavior, the lesson remains. The universe is stranger than we imagine. Our models, our expectations, our certainties, they crumble. In the face of reality, the message is the same: humility. We are not masters of the universe. We are infants, staring at mysteries we cannot yet comprehend. But let us not forget the darkest possibility. Stephen Hawking once warned that broadcasting our existence could be dangerous. In the dark forest of the universe, he said, survival depends on silence. Because if a hunter hears you, it does not ask questions. It eliminates. If the lunar ship and 3I Atlas are connected, then perhaps our signals have already been heard. Perhaps this probe was sent to confirm what we broadcast. And if that is true, then the silence may not last forever. What if the next time it does not just pass through? What if it stays? So here we stand, in the year 2025, watching as an elongated stranger cuts across our solar system. Scientists call it a comet. Astronomers shrugged. Governments remain quiet. But for those willing to see, the pattern is clear. A ship on the moon, a ship in the sky, both elongated, both improbable, both reminding us of a truth too large to ignore. We are not alone. The only question left is whether that truth will save ESOR end us, asterisk, and so. As we watch 3IATLAS streak across the void, one truth becomes impossible to deny. Something about this story does not add up. We began with a photograph from the moon's far side, silent, elongated structure resting in shadow. We followed the trail to 2025, where another elongated visitor appeared, tearing across the solar system with impossible precision. Along the way, we uncovered contradictions, gaps in the official narrative, and a silence from NASA and other agencies that feels louder than any admission. Coincidence after coincidence stacks like bricks until the wall itself tells a story. Maybe 3I Atlas is just a comet. Maybe the lunar ship is just a rock. But the deeper you look, the harder that story is to believe. The trajectory, the geometry, the timing, it all feels too deliberate, too orchestrated. If they are connected, then humanity has already been observed for longer than we realize. The moon may not just be a barren satellite, it may have been a staging ground. And 3I Atlas may not be arriving. It may be departing, carrying with it data, records, and secrets about us. So here we are, standing at the edge of possibility. If it is natural, then the universe is far stranger than science admits. If it is artificial, then history has already changed, and we are no longer alone. Asterisk either way, the message is the same: humility, vigilance, and above all, awareness. Because when mysteries of this scale cross our skies, they do not return. They pass once, and then they are gone, leaving only questions behind. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the greatest test is not whether we find the answers, but whether we dare to ask the questions in the first place.